What if the wounds we carry aren't just memories, but echoes of a past still shaping our future? Chloe had asked herself this question more times than she could count. But tonight, standing in front of the mirror, wrapped in the delicate lace of her wedding dress, she wasn't just asking, she was drowning in it. The reflection staring back at her should have been one of a woman on the verge of happiness, a woman stepping into a new life, a new love. But all she could see were the shadows behind her, the ghosts of a past she had never truly escaped. Her fingers trembled as she traced the fabric over her chest, the same way she traced the scars left by her parents' divorce. She was only 7 when their love fell apart, but she still remembered the sound of doors slamming, the bitterness in their voices, the way her mother had cried in the kitchen when she thought no one was looking. Marriage is just a slow, cruel way to lose someone, her mother had once told her. She had been too young to understand it then. But now on the eve of her wedding, she felt those words like a curse etched into her bones. She reached for the small wooden box on the vanity, one she hadn't opened in years. Inside was an old journal, its edges frayed with time. She flipped through the pages until she found the entry, dated 10 years ago. I will never get married. Love is a lie. People promise forever, but forever doesn't exist. Chloe swallowed hard. She had written those words with the certainty of someone who had seen love fail too many times to believe in it. And yet, here she was, about to promise forever to Gabriel, a man who loved her, a man who saw past the walls she had spent years building. But what if love wasn't enough? What if, despite his warmth, his patience, his devotion, she was still that little girl, standing in the ruins of a home that was supposed to be safe? A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Chloe?" Gabriel's voice was soft, laced with concern. "Are you okay?" She hesitated, staring at the door as if it were a line between her past and her future. "I'm fine," she finally said, forcing the words past the lump in her throat. But as she looked back at her reflection, she wasn't sure if she believed it. And somewhere, beneath the layers of lace and silk, she could feel the weight of her past whispering, "Are you sure? Honeymoons were supposed to be magical. That's what people always said. That's what the movie showed. Soft sunsets, laughter spilling over candlelit dinners, hands intertwined, as if the world beyond them no longer existed." And for a while, Chloe let herself believe in the illusion. She and Gabriel had escaped to a quiet coastal town, where the ocean stretched endlessly, and the salty air carried promises of new beginnings. He had kissed her forehead as they walked barefoot along the shore, traced patterns on her palm as they lay beneath the stars. For moments, brief, fleeting moments, she felt safe in his love. But love, she had learned, was a fragile thing. It happened on their 3rd night, over dinner. A simple conversation, nothing more than a passing comment about their future, about kids, about family. Chloe's chest tightened. She wasn't ready to talk about children. She wasn't even sure she wanted them. Gabriel noticed the shift, the way her body tensed, the way her gaze dropped to her untouched plate. "Chloe," he said gently, reaching for her hand. "Talk to me." She hated how much she wanted to pull away. I don't know," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can be a mother." Gabriel's brows furrowed. Why? She could have told him the truth, that the idea of family terrified her, that she had seen firsthand how love could turn to resentment, how promises could crumble. But instead, she forced a smile and said, "I just don't think it's the right time." Gabriel didn't push. He never did. He just squeezed her hand, offering her silent reassurance. But later that night, as she lay beside him staring at the ceiling, the echoes of her parents' divorce crept in again. Her mother, exhausted and bitter, telling her that love always fades. Her father, distant and absent, proving it was true. And Chloe, caught somewhere between believing them and desperately hoping they were wrong. She turned her head, watching Gabriel sleep. He looked so peaceful, so certain, like a man who had never questioned love the way she did. For now, he didn't know the weight she carried, but how much longer could she hide it? How much longer until the cracks started to show? The past has a way of creeping in, no matter how tightly we try to shut the door. And Chloe was beginning to realize some doors don't stay closed forever. The silence in the house was suffocating. Gabriel was in the kitchen, humming softly as he made coffee, but Chloe felt miles away, trapped in thoughts she didn't want to entertain. She had promised herself she wouldn't let the past ruin this. She had vowed that Gabriel would never have to suffer the weight of her childhood wounds. But pretending was starting to feel like standing on cracked ice, waiting for it to break beneath her. She needed air. Without a word, she grabbed her keys and left. Her mother's house smelled like old books and faint traces of lavender. It was the same scent Chloe had grown up with, the same one that had clung to her clothes as a child when she curled up on the couch, trying to disappear while her parents fought. "Look who finally visits," her mother said, setting down her tea. "Married life must be keeping you busy." Chloe forced a smile and sat across from her. "I just needed to see you," she admitted. Her mother raised an eyebrow. "Or you needed a reminder." Chloe frowned. "A reminder of what?" Her mother leaned back, studying her with that knowing look she had perfected over the years. "That marriage isn't what you think it is. That it starts out with romance and promises, and then one day you wake up next to a stranger." Chloe's chest tightened. "Mom, you're just like me, Chloe." Her mother's voice was soft, but the words landed like a blow. "You think love will save you, but love fades. People change. And one day, you'll realize you gave your whole heart to someone who no longer wants it." Chloe swallowed hard, fighting the lump in her throat. Her mother had spent years convincing herself that love was nothing but a slow unraveling, that divorce was inevitable, that no matter how tightly you held on, people always found a way to leave. Chloe wanted to believe she was different, but deep down, a whisper of fear gnawed at her. What if she wasn't different? What if she was doomed to repeat the same story, the same heartbreak, the same bitter ending? Chloe's fingers gripped the edge of her chair, her mother's words settling into the cracks she had spent years trying to mend. "Not everyone leaves," she said finally, her voice quieter than she intended. Her mother gave a small, tired smile, the kind laced with resignation rather than warmth. "That's what I used to think, too." The weight of the conversation pressed against Chloe's chest. She had come here looking for comfort, for some kind of reassurance. Instead, she had walked straight into her deepest fear. She stood up. "I should go." Her mother didn't try to stop her. As Chloe reached the door, she hesitated. "You could be wrong, you know." Her mother let out a soft chuckle. "I hope I am." But there was no real conviction in her voice. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and old memories she didn't want to revisit. By the time she pulled into the driveway, her hands were trembling. Gabriel was sitting on the couch when she walked in, a book resting in his lap. He looked up immediately, concern flickering in his eyes. "Where'd you go?" he asked. Chloe hesitated. She could lie, say she just needed some fresh air, that she had gone for a drive to clear her head. But wasn't that the problem? The hiding, the pretending, the fear of saying too much? She let out a slow breath and sat beside him, her body tense. "I went to see my mom." Gabriel closed his book and turned to her fully. "And?" Chloe's fingers twisted together in her lap. "She thinks I'm making a mistake." His expression softened, but he didn't look surprised. "Because of the divorce?" She nodded. "She thinks love always fades, that people always leave." Gabriel was quiet for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. Then he reached for her hand, his touch steady and warm. "And what do you think?" Chloe wanted to say she believed in love, that she believed in them, but the words felt fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. "I don't know," she admitted, barely above a whisper. "I don't want to be like her. I don't want to push you away, or build walls so high that one day you stop trying to climb them." Gabriel studied her for a long moment. Then he shifted closer, lifting her hand to his lips. "Chloe, you are not your mother." A lump formed in her throat. "How do you know?" "Because I know you." His voice was gentle but firm. "I know the way you love, the way you fight to protect the people you care about. I know you're scared, and that's okay. But we don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep choosing each other. His words settled deep within her, touching something raw and tender. Keep choosing each other. Not a grand promise of forever. Not a fairy tale. Just a choice, over and over again. She exhaled, some of the weight in her chest easing. I want to believe that. Gabriel smiled, pressing his forehead against hers. Then let's prove her wrong. For the first time that night, Chloe allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, he was right. But even as she leaned into his embrace, a quiet fear lingered in the back of her mind. Could love really be stronger than the ghosts of the past? Chloe wanted to believe it. She needed to believe it. But doubt was a persistent thing, like a whisper that refused to fade, like an old wound that never fully healed. That night, as Gabriel slept beside her, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The silence of the room pressed in on her, amplifying the thoughts she had tried so hard to silence. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. You're just like me. Chloe turned onto her side, watching Gabriel's steady breathing. He looked so at peace, so certain. How did he do that? How did he trust so easily, love so freely? She wanted to ask him, wanted to wake him up and pour every fear, every insecurity, into the space between them. But what if she ruined this? What if she was too much? Instead, she closed her eyes and forced herself to breathe. In, out. Maybe in the morning everything would feel lighter, but the morning only brought more weight. Gabriel was already in the kitchen when she woke up, flipping pancakes in his usual effortless way. Morning beautiful, he greeted, flashing her that easy smile. She tried to return it, but it felt weak. Morning. He studied her for a second before setting the spatula down. You didn't sleep well, she sighed, running a hand through her hair. Not really. Gabriel poured her a cup of coffee, sliding it across the counter. Want to talk about it? Chloe wrapped her hands around the mug, the warmth grounding her. She wanted to say no, to push it down and pretend everything was fine. But hadn't that been the problem all along? She swallowed hard. I don't want to become my mother. Gabriel's expression softened. Chloe. I mean it, she interrupted. I see the way she is, the way she looks at love like it's a ticking time bomb, and I don't want to be like that. But sometimes, her voice faltered. Sometimes I wonder if it's already too late. Gabriel leaned on the counter, his eyes never leaving hers. Do you know what I think? She let out a small, shaky laugh. I have a feeling you're going to tell me. He smirked but sobered quickly. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're aware of the patterns. You're questioning them. That means you already have the power to break them. Chloe's fingers tightened around the mug. What if knowing isn't enough? He reached across the counter, taking her hand in his. Then we take it one day at a time. One choice at a time. Chloe stared at their intertwined fingers, something shifting in her chest. Maybe she wasn't her mother. Maybe love didn't have to end in divorce. But even as the thought settled, a new challenge loomed on the horizon, one that would test everything she had fought so hard to believe. But even as the thought settled, a new challenge loomed on the horizon, one that would test everything she had fought so hard to believe. Her mother called later that afternoon. I ran into your aunt today, she said, her voice clipped. She told me you and Gabriel were looking at houses. Chloe frowned, shifting the phone to her other ear. We've talked about it, yeah. A sharp exhale. You're making a mistake. There it was again. That same warning, that same certainty. Chloe closed her eyes, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter. Mom, you're moving too fast. You think love is enough, but it's not. And when things fall apart, when, not if, Chloe interrupted, anger bubbling up. Her mother hesitated. I just don't want you to go through what I did. Chloe's jaw tightened. No, you don't want me to prove you wrong. Silence. For years, Chloe had let her mother's words settle into her bones like an unshakable truth. But now, for the first time, she realized something. Her mother wasn't protecting her. She was projecting her own pain, her own failures, onto Chloe's life. And she wasn't going to let it happen anymore. I love you, Chloe said, her voice steady. But I'm not you. And my marriage is not your divorce. Before her mother could respond, she ended the call. She expected to feel guilt. Instead, she felt free. That evening she sat with Gabriel on their small apartment balcony, staring out at the city lights. "I told her," Chloe murmured. Gabriel glanced at her. "Told her what?" "That I'm not her." A small smile touched his lips. "How'd she take it?" "She didn't argue." Chloe sighed. "I think, deep down, she knows it's true, but she's still stuck in her own pain." Gabriel reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "That doesn't mean you have to be." Chloe nodded, but a small part of her still hesitated. Could she really outrun the patterns of her past? Or would they always be waiting for her, ready to pull her back in? Gabriel squeezed her hand. "We're going to be okay." Chloe wanted to believe him, but the biggest test was still ahead. Chloe had always believed that love was something fragile, something that could slip through her fingers if she wasn't careful. But love wasn't the problem. Fear was, and she refused to let fear win. So when Gabriel got down on one knee in the middle of their new, empty house, her first instinct wasn't to run. It was to say yes. "Yes," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands steady in a way that made her believe this wasn't a mistake, that this wasn't a cycle she was doomed to repeat. They stood together in the middle of the house they would turn into a home, and for the first time, Chloe didn't feel like she was standing on cracked ice. She felt grounded, safe, loved. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Her mother came, though she never voiced approval or disapproval. She just watched, quiet, thoughtful, and maybe that was enough. Maybe breaking the cycle didn't mean fixing what was broken in someone else. Maybe it just meant refusing to carry their pain as your own. As Chloe stood across from Gabriel, promising to love him, to fight for him, to choose him, she realized something. Divorce had shaped her life, but it wouldn't define it. Because love wasn't a ticking time bomb. It wasn't something that faded, something destined to slip away. Love was a choice, and she was finally ready to make it. Some people inherit legacies of wealth, power, or success. Chloe had inherited divorce. But legacies can be rewritten, one choice at a time.